Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to Rituals of Strength, your personal pathway to strength and power. I'm your host, Kevin Secours, and this week it is my massive honor, and I'm going to admit I'm geeking out a little bit. We have a very special guest this week. Mr. Vadim Kolganov is somebody that I've respected from afar for a long time. He is an expert in judo, a fourth degree black belt in Japanese traditional jiu-jitsu, a master of sport in sambo, and I'm going to get it right, an osteomyologist, which I had not heard of either, but we're going to talk about that. Vadim is someone that I first actually found out about because in the Sistema world, I was heavy into sambo and I saw him in some clips, and then I just became an addict of his material. So I want to start by saying, Vadim, I cannot thank you enough for being on this week. It really means a lot to me. You are somebody that I've been idolizing from afar for a good decade, probably maybe even 20. So thank you very much for making the time.
Thank you so much for inviting me, man. It's a pleasure and my honor
Oh my
to
God,
be on your podcast.
I'm tingling, right? So you've got such a diverse background. I knew quite a bit about it, and then I had to start like researching you. And every different platform I looked at you on, there was something new I didn't know, and I was like, "This is incredible! You need a marketing agent, man. You should be promoting this." So we're gonna start. We're gonna start from the beginning. So if I have this correct, you started your martial arts training journey in karate when you were 10 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It was sort of 1979, something like this. Uh, quite funny because I went to see this action movie. It's called The Pirates of the 20th Century. It came out. It's a Russian movie. You could find it on YouTube, by the way. And it was first action movie that I saw, and there was the guys who were kicking ass. Sorry for my French. Uh, they were doing really well, and they were doing karate. So I thought, that is amazing. And my dad said to me, there's a club that opened up just not far from us, and there was karate club. So I went there and started doing karate, which was quite good, and I enjoyed it. Sadly, that was that time when karate was forbid in that time, and it was illegal to do the karate. So the karate went underground for whatever reasons. I think there were different reasons. One of them was they didn't want to uh, divert people from traditional sports like boxing and wrestling, and also they thought that the thugs were doing the karate and they would go and hurt people. That's why it was illegal to do. So that's why my club closed and I didn't do karate anymore.
How long did you stay in that?
I think it was sort of like a year or something like this.
And
Yeah.
am I correct in that you went directly to sambo and judo at that point?
It was the Olympic year, so
Yeah.
and my dad was again was involved with organizing some stuff for the clay pigeon shooting, so for building up, leading up to the Olympic Games. So he was given the lot of free passes. So and I went to few like athletics, and I saw wrestling and judo. So I quite liked it. And then at the end of it, when the Olympics finished, in sort of September, the club opened up, judo club. So and again, my dad was said, go and check it out. So I went there with my friends, as you do, so because you don't want to go on by yourself, and I liked it. It was really good, and I kind of stuck to it.
Can you, because I mean, I'm sure a lot of listeners hearing that something like karate was ever illegal in the 20th century anywhere in the world is going to be mind blowing. But I mean, when we look back at like Russian weightlifting, gymnastics, wrestling, boxing, sambo, judo, so dominant. What was it like training in judo and sambo in those early days?
The thing is, see that when you go in there, so you only like 10 years old, and you only follow what your coach tells you. So it was quite intense. We were training from Monday to Saturday. You know, um, the Thursday was kind of our, sort of a rest day. So the coach would encourage us to go to the sauna to go and relax. But it was quite intense because I started doing judo, and my first competition was 3 months after. So and we competed probably like 6 or 7 times a year in judo, and then was sambo, because my first thing was judo. I started sambo only when I joined the University of Physical Culture.
Amazing. So I was sitting around with some friends, all experts in the martial arts, and this question came up, and I thought the answers were interesting. So I wanted to ask you a rather odd question. When you think back to those early days, what smell comes to mind?
uh, it's like sweated body, the smell of the old judo gi, and so it's my mom used to say it's like going to the horse stable,
Yeah,
you know.
that cotton smell of a judo gi. There's nothing on the plate. It never gets dry. You're always,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just
That kind of musky smell.
yeah. Hey, and oh my God. Now you've had, I mean, I look at your competitive career. I mean, a very active competitive career that went on quite late compared to most people. Can you discuss those periods of time? Because I know you had off and on. What was it like when you were being that competitive at the level you were?
Ah, I know it's quite. I was looking at my certificates, from the early time when I started. I was only like 11 years old, so, and I was weighing like 30 kilos,
Wow.
you know, uh, and then progressing to the sort of going to the 80, 82, 85 kilos. And it was kind of a mixture, sometimes I would win, sometimes I would lose, but, you know, I, n- I was always nervous going to competition,
Yeah.
you know, uh, especially like a few weeks or week before competition. I was even dreaming about competition, um, because I think it's like, for anybody, you don't want to lose, or you don't want to look stupid or weak. You always want to win, and one of those that fear of failure, so but then, when you get the buzz when you win competition,
Mhm.
you know so I enjoyed the after competition, but before leading up to it, I was quite nervous.
Yeah. You've just literally triggered my 10-year-old pre-stress diarrhea before competition. Oh my
I
God.
know, I know,
So much.
especially that, see that when you have to cut weight,
Yeah.
and I remember I was even more nervous about the making weight than the actually winning competition. So when you get to the on the scales and you weigh yourself up, it's like, oh yeah, that's it. Halfway through, I made the weight.
You doing like I know like in like Western wrestling, they do the aluminum foil suits and the jogging and the sauna. What's the craziest thing you had to do to make weight?
I was pretty much the same. I was, the sauna, of course, and eating, cutting out the carbs,
Yeah.
eating lean meat, and sweating a lot, running with the lots of clothes on you
Yeah.
and stuff. So basically dehydrating.
Did you ever have any negative effects from the cut when you were competing? Like,
One time when I overdone it, so I went to competition. I made weight. I did my first fight and I won it, and the second one I just didn't have any strength.
yeah,
I just literally like give up. I see that what happened. I just couldn't be bothered.
yeah,
It's like, I can't. I want to just go home.
I know that feeling. Now, not only did you start training young, you were competitive super young. If there's someone listening and they have a young child and they want to give them into the martial arts, what are your thoughts? What advice would you give them? How much of it is up to the kid? How much do you encourage or, dare I say, force them to compete or not compete? What are your thoughts on that?
Mm. That's a tricky.
Yeah.
That's a tricky question, because it is important to compete because it trains your mind. You're leading up to the competition, you discipline yourself, and also it prepares you for life
Mhm.
because that's what life is. It's always a struggle,
Mhm.
but it is a tricky one because some people not cut up for it.
That's right.
If the parent too pushy, and pushes his child to compete, and the child doesn't want to, that could bring the negative or negativity into it, and child will stop doing the what he wants to do. More like sometimes they just want to do it for the creative, what's it, recreation.
Yeah.
You know, so it is like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It is important because from my personal experience, I didn't like to compete, but when I win competition, I loved it.
Did you have a lot of pressure on you to compete, or was it more motivated?
It was like I wanted to compete. I didn't want to compete.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose. I think that's what it was. It was more psychological than anything.
Yeah, there was enough in
So
that it kept you going, but yeah, it's a question I get asked all the time, and I just don't think there's a simple answer, And I think
no.
a big problem is saying, "Oh, then I won't push my kid," and everyone sort of fears pain or fears
Mhm.
a little bit of deprivation. But yeah, that's exactly what I had hoped you would say. um, w-
For example, my son, the youngest one, Max, you probably saw him on the video. He's a
yeah,
the big fella with a beard, bigger than me. But he doesn't compete. He's very good in the club.
yeah.
But when I ask him, Max, do you want to compete? He said, Nah, Dad, I'm not that bothered. So I don't want to force him into it. So that because I don't want him to stop.
I was the same with my son. I think that's
Hmm.
amazing. Now you are training competitors to this day. Are there things from your days of competition that you definitely kept and things that maybe you were exposed to that you said, no, I'm not going to teach?
What do you mean?
Like preparing for competition. Are there
For competition?
habits, or is there anything that you absolutely said, look, I'll never make one of my students do this. This was abuse or this was diminishing returns?
My coach was really good. He was, um, he was a good teacher. He
Mhm.
was very, what the word I'm looking for, like not sensitive, but he knew how to push and everything. So I learned a lot of it from him, how to approach. So because the physical side is important, but also it's a psychological side. To motivate your competitor to do well. So trying to age gently.
Yeah.
So also not to push them too much, but kind of suggest, like power of suggestion,
Yes.
make them think that that's what the thing is right to do. So my coach used to, you know, I am a slow starter. When he immediately knew that I was um, confrontation is not my natural thing. So he would before the fight, for instance, like that, he would piss me off first. He would say something to get me a little bit riled up, and he's like, "Yeah, he's ready to go now."
Were you aware of it at the time or only looking back?
No, no. After that, he would. He
Yeah.
was a clever man.
No, I'm not a pure samboist. I've, trained with some amazing sambo people. But the thing that always struck me is that certainly when I was growing up, when I was young, we were probably in the West supposed to fear the Soviets. But I was always in deep awe of this sort of balance between very scientific exploration of sports science, but then whereas maybe the Asian martial arts might have delved into spiritualism, they sort of did like a psychophysical balance, like you're talking about. Psychological preparation was always huge. And there's I don't I and I mean it as the ultimate compliment. There's such a pure simplicity I find to Sambo that keeps it unbogged by this tradition of I think my teacher meant this or this is the way it has to be done. Would you say it's fair to say that there is a an underlying kind of empirical scientific thought process to how it training occurs, or is that just how it seems on the outside?
Hmm. You mean preparation for in in
Yeah.
sambo
Because like
judo, like?
in the 80s, it just seemed like anything I read about effective stretching or plyometrics, even if it was steroids, it didn't matter what it was, the Russians were doing it better. And then when I looked at some of the Japanese jujitsu technique that I had to like decipher, it was so convoluted and so many steps away from practical. But with Sambo, I've never encountered anything that's fancy to the point of confusing. You might have more complex things if you're more skilled, but everything just seems to make sense. There's like a
I think it, see that say if like talking about Russian judo or judo in Soviet Union, because uh, roots of sambo is from judo. You know, I mean, you know yourself, from history of sambo, there are like three founders or two main ones is the Spiridonov and Shevkov. Spiridonov was working more for the NKVD or the modern days KGB FSB thing. So and his base was on more like jiu-jitsu, like
and he
you know,
was wounded,
uh,
right? He had an injury, I believe.
yeah, and they were studying like because that's when Systema goes from
Yeah.
uh, study of the levers and balance and the coupling forces and all that. The that was Spiridonov. Ashepkov, he's purely Japanese judo because that's where he studied. And then he kind of evolved from the from judo. He went to the freestyle wrestling because he had different students from different part of the Soviet Union in those days, like Georgia, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Armenia, and they had different approaches to the similar throws. So and that's when the samba became slightly different. So but the as you said about judo, kind of sometimes it kind of doesn't make sense and stuff. You know, um, Probably that's when the kind of Russian approach or the Soviet approach. So the more kind of a natural way. We started doing the kettle bells from our coach. My coach. He was showing us different exercises with barbell and a lot of it kettlebell exercises. So that was kind of essential thing.
Yeah.
You know, and the what do you call it? When you do the exercises with your body weight, that's
Uh,
quite important.
yeah. Now,
Uh, Calisthenics or something.
sure.
Calisthenics.
Yeah. Now, it seems at least from the outside that Sambo produces some of the greatest fighters that the fighting sports have ever seen, whether it's Fedor Emelianenko or, somebody like Khabib or um, do you think there is an underlying element to Sambo that makes them such fearsome competitors, or is it just very coincidental that so many do well in MMA?
I don't know because see, I was thinking because when about that question, so I think it's just the approach. Maybe a lot of good fighters coming from all over Russia, but a lot of it from like Dagestan and Chechnya. They they start quite early, and the strength is quite important in the North Caucasus.
Yeah.
So and if it's a boy, he has to be a fighter. Because of the you have to be able to defend yourself. That's within their DNA, I think, because it's a hard society. What's it called? That hard life creates a hard man,
Yes.
and hard man makes the better world.
Yes.
So, and I think that's what it is. Sometimes when you walk in a crowd and you see Russian person, you could always tell that is a Russian person because it's in our eyes.
Yep.
Sort of hard life.
Yeah.
Not that it is hard, but the years of different things that's been happening in our society that lays the kind of effect on us. I think that's what it is. Sort of it's the mental state. Sort of like psychological. You need to be a good fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely an intimidation factor that I've seen in a lot of Russian fighters where there's no emotion and
I know it's like sometimes some people say like, no, God, Russians are quite dour. So it's like, oh, they don't smile. But yeah, we naturally kind of uh, suspicious of things.
yeah. I think you have to earn the smile because
Yeah, uh-huh.
the person
And
tell you,
then
good job.
and when you get to know the person, the all eyes melts, and we are welcome people. But the initial thing is like, I don't know, I don't know you.
Yeah. I think too, there's an element, certainly in traditional jujitsu growing up, there were over specializations, and you'd have schools that were so fine motor and a key and harmonious that it was almost non-functional. Then BJJ came out, and then you started seeing that over specialize, and guys are only doing ground, or they're not isolating takedowns or whatever the case is. Many traditional jiu-jitsu and BJJ guys don't consider striking, but
Yeah.
every sambo guy I've trained with, I mean, they're terrifying on takedowns, terrifying. Suplexes of all types and throws, and they're always, even in sports sambo, they're always aware that combat sambo is just that inch away. They're always thinking of striking. Um, I just think that balance is always there. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I think that's yeah. Thanks for pointing this out, because it's a transition. It's a smooth transition. If you watch the Fyodor Yemelyanenko, or any of the combat sambo contest, it's the smooth transition from striking to ground. There's kind of almost like a rough reality. The proper fight is always rough.
Yeah.
And you have to transition from one thing to another smoothly.
I remember
So
there was a documentary on Fedor at his peak when he was like winning everything, and they show his gym back home, and it's 50% duct tape. There's no frivol, there's nothing, no frills. It's just bags that
mhm.
have been ripped, and everything's rusted. He's just there to do the work. It's going back to your earlier point. I just think there's always that balance, and there's no excess with gadgets and whatever else.
The simplicity, that's a key, I think. I mean, it's, as you said, is you have to use what works.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, you don't use it. It's like KISS principle: keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
you know um, that's the thing. If it's the simpler thing, if it's a complex, there is more place for error.
Yeah.
And the fight is always rough and always too fast. You don't have to think too much. So not kind of knocking down the BJJ, because it's the every sport restricted with their rules.
Sure.
But if there is there is no rules, it's always rough and it's always fast.
Yeah.
So
Now I want
that's
to
why
get.
probably Sambo is so effective.
Now, you studied at the Russian State University in physical culture. Describe what that was like and how that education influenced your perspective going forward.
the See, the getting into the university, because before that I wanted to join the military university, but again my father kind of said, um best not, because I wanted to join Pacific University of the submarine. So it's like, no, 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 no. You don't want to be a submariner, son. so I went to the States University of the Physical Culture. Um, my the guy who was taking my exams to get into university was the Chumakov, who was the actually one of the students of the founders, one of the founders of the of Sambo. So I was overwhelmed because I've got a lot of books of him written by him. My I think it's improved because see that because I was coming from judo background, but when I joined the university in the Sambo faculty, so it changed my approach to wrestling, because I always when I was competing in Sambo, I knew that Sambo is good wrestlers, but they are good on the ground, especially leg locks. So that improved my groundwork, as well as the throws. And some throws are very specific for Sambo, and so it did improve my grappling skills.
Now, you mentioned leg lock. I'm going to massively oversimplify here so listeners don't save me the emails because there's always someone saying, well, I've been leg locking since 1963. But generally speaking, certainly in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, leg locks exist, but they're really a minority. Judo, very little. A lot of the throws that are legal in Sambo are banned in Judo. And I remember when BJJ came out in the early days, I trained with some at Gracie seminars and Machado seminars, and they were like, we don't do leg locks, or we don't do them till after black belt. And then now you see whole styles of BJJ specializing. You might even say over specializing in BJJ in leg locks. So as somebody who's always done leg locks, who's always been in Sambo, how do you look at this evolution of the understanding of leg locks in something like Jiu-Jitsu or an MMA? What are your thoughts on it?
I look at it. They're amazing. I like it, but sometimes maybe I'm just simple or stupid. Sometimes they look a bit complicated. You think, why you gonna go do this so many ways to get to that when you just grab it and apply the painful lock. You know, again, maybe just me, but I think it's in BJJ they overcomplicate things.
Yeah. I mean, one thing, earlier I said that oftentimes they don't consider the strike, but another thing about Sambo leg locks or catch wrestling to an extent is that they can be abandoned very fast, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to pull it off in a real situation, you can get out of there as quickly as possible. Um, if I have this correctly, so after that, you ended up going and enlisting in the army anyway, right? In '88, I believe.
Yeah, 88.
And can you talk about what you did there, what your training was like?
Yeah, it was still the Soviet Union was still in Afghanistan, and from the age of 15, you every year you go to your medical, from school, and they will kind of enlist you for the specific regiments. So because doing sports and everything, so I was, I think, a possibility for me to go for paratroopers, and Afghanistan was still going. So I thought, I didn't feel like going there, so I managed to go to the. It was a school of helicopter pilots. So I passed my psychological, medical, and then passed my exams, and I joined the helicopter sort of training facility, which I passed, and I did that for 2 years. So I'm kind of a helicopter pilot, but so the training was just, you just fly, you don't do anything else. Sometimes we would exercise, obviously, do the chin ups and run and everything, but it was nothing specific. It wasn't any sort of combat training for helicopter.
Is there anything, even though it was kind of unrelated, is there anything from those days that informed your training afterwards?
Not much, not much. However, when I go back to the university on the third year of finishing there was a military faculty within university, and that was from the paratroopers. So at the end of our year, third year, we went to the city called Resign. That's where one of the main universities for the paratrooper officers. So we went there for 2 months to do our sort of training with paratroopers. When you have to jump with out of the plane with a parachute and drive a tank and shoot things and did some combat as well, combat training.
Are you
But we already did.
are you super good with heights? Do you have fear when you're jumping out of a, out of a helicopter or a plane, or how does it?
You always scared, because it's not natural, So that's when they say that, why the pilots, land the plane, saving this expensive hardware, not because they want to save it, because they were too scared to jump out.
That's right. So now, after that service, if I have it correctly, you completed your university degree. You joined the Moscow Region Police Force as an inspector of physical education and self-defense. That's a title that does not exist in the West. So what does that involve?
Because of my sports background, so how I be able to join it, because from early age, my club, my sports club is Dynamo.
Yeah.
Which is police club.
Yeah.
So it was natural progression to from there to join this facility. So it's kind of you become you join the police, but you're not actually really police. You're kind of a policeman police.
Yes. Yeah.
What you do, you're basically going around the Moscow region and check there's fitness. You, not so much actually the police itself. You check the person who's in charge of it with these particular police stations, of their physical qualities, the ability to shoot, and self-defense, or the kind of the restraint techniques.
Yeah.
So you check that, and then if you satisfied with the person who is responsible for it, you give him good marks, and you move on. If he doesn't do it, you give him warning, and then you go back there to check him again. So that's what I was doing.
That's something that we are sorely lacking, I think, still in the West with police training, is that kind of quality auditor. Now, you've got already at this point in your life, such a diverse background. How would I know that you came more from a sporting background, but what is your view on self-defense? What are your tactics? How do you approach it overall?
I know sometimes, see, the self-defense, it depends on the legality of things, especially with nowadays, because of so many CCTV cameras.
Yeah.
And depends how you're dealing with the thug. If you talk about the approach, Jeff Thompson, one of my friends, he said that I'm what's it called? I'm backyard warrior. I usually would walk away, but if it's comes to my life, or well-being, or life of my family, I will do everything to save them or myself. So, but sometimes self-defense is being taught not correctly. But then again, it's how are you prepared to take someone who's threatening you with a life to damage him in that way that you might end up to go to prison.
Exactly.
But self-defense, so the simpler the better, I think. See that,
And
some people teach you how to escape from the like a cold throat and stuff.
which, yeah,
Intends totally different. They teach wrongly. Same thing is like with the knife defenses. I think the a lot of people teach knife defense incorrectly, because if you see the knife, you best to do your good running,
yes, yeah,
because you can't defend against a knife.
yeah. And if you're
Oh,
gonna,
it's very difficult anyway.
and I think if it does happen, it's gonna end up looking more like a grapple than a boxing match, or at least I would hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh.
And listen, getting that kind of a compliment from Jeff Thompson, he's like one of the gods of self-defense. So that's a pretty good a pretty good compliment. Um, Now, as if your career wasn't amazing already, 1993, you end up working at a spinal injuries clinic in Moscow. Which, when I read this, I was like, you just got bored and decided to go into this? This is
No,
incredible.
see what happened. It was 93. It was 1991.
Yeah.
91. The I As I was working as the inspector in the police force, I met my mate in Moscow metro underground, and I said we were studying together in university, physical culture. Asked him, what you do now? I said I work in Dukul center. Dukul, he uh, he was my, I don't want to say idol, but I always amazed by his achievement, because Dukul, he was a trapeze artist in circus, and one of his acts he fell down and broke his back.
Oh,
So because of his safety rope thing
yeah.
snapped, and so he landed and damaged his spine. So he managed to build himself up, and he was able to walk after 5 years of intense work. And the system that he developed, which he called the cool system. So and he became he going back to circus and became strongman, right? And so he started teaching his system and helping a spinal injured to rehabilitate them. And I thought, oh, sounds really good. So I quit my job in uh, police department and joined the cool center with working as a physiotherapist of rehab in the rehab center,
A
and
lot of,
that's how I had a few patients from the UK, and I think that's how I end up in here.
with that kind of, because I mean, you're saying it casually, but that's pretty incredible. What would your advice be overall to someone who might be concerned with minimizing injury or maximizing longevity?
I It's like train wisely, so listen to your body. You know the joint mobility is important. The if the muscles tight, they're most likely to get injured. So stretching is good, but not overstretching. It's mostly joint mobility, and of course core strength. Doing a lot of body weight exercises, and for me, of course, personal one is the kettlebell exercises that will build the body strength, core strength, and functional strength.
I'm gonna
I think
I'm
that.
I'm coming to kettlebells in a minute with you. Let me ask you this. I'm sure you have a lot, but a listener is going to be hearing your experience, and I'm sure they would want to know, can you suggest one of your favorite recuperation techniques? Is there anything that you really love to do to help yourself heal?
Mhm. Sauna.
Sauna.
I think sauna. sauna. Is such a good way. It's almost like escapism, you know. Traditionally in Russia, you know, sauna. It's a you go for a few hours there. You know, you especially if it's in the winter. Oh, it's amazing because you go to the sauna, you go to the steam room. You know, you come out, you go into the just outside. If it's in the middle of sort of like village or something like this, you go right in the snow and then go back to the sauna again. It's everything is just tingling, and of course, good healthy drinks. You know, like a compote or something like this. You know, like with the berries and stuff. You know, so very healthy. But my favorite thing is it would be sauna. You know, so breathing exercises. That's another good one.
Yeah. You have a favorite that you do?
No, just general, just the diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah.
You know, so nothing specific. I
Nice.
mean, there are so many different things, like especially in the yoga.
I know.
You know, but just normal. It's focusing your mind and trying to relax.
I talk so often to people and I introduce hundreds of different methods and they say, "Do you like this one?" I said, "I don't know. It changes all the time." I just think it's important that you put focus on breathing. That matters more
Yeah.
than
Uh-huh. I mean, breathing is the first thing you do in this life and the last thing you do in this life.
exactly. Yeah. Now,
And what is that yoga practitioner said that, that if it's true or not, but they said that your life span, the longevity, is dependent not on the years that you live, is the breath you take.
yes.
The
Yeah.
slower your breath is, the longer you live.
And some of the Russian teachers I've had have said that about heartbeat as well. Like you're using up all
Yeah.
your heartbeats too fast, right? Kind of thing. Now, after you met your wife, let me see if I get this right. You moved to Britain, and in 2005, you returned to competition. You won bronze in the World Masters Sambo Championship in Prague. And then
In Prague.
in 2006, you became the British Sambo Champion, which is amazing. What was it like returning to competition for you after that kind of a break? Did it give you any new reflections, new insights?
I the thing is because you're going back to the competition for such a big, long sort of break from competing. My style changed because I was older. so so I wasn't it wasn't as fast. So my style was kind of as well as throws. It was mostly kind of taking person to the ground and trying to win by submission. So like British competition, all of my fights are won by leg locks, not by throws.
The more
Before that, when I was younger, I was mostly throwing.
yeah, yeah. This I can relate to. Now, you said maybe not that you were not competitive, but certainly not violent by nature. What would you say competing taught you about human nature and aggression?
Oh, that's a interesting question. Uh, there are so many people, man. The in competition, you always meet the different people, but mostly it's the most competitors are, especially judo or sambo. The practice being more like a gentleman.
Yeah.
So is respect to each other. So if you watch some of the sambo competitions when the guys win, especially like combat sambo, and guys get badly hurt, the person who was fighting with them and he's the one who picked them up, and helped them to walk out the mat.
Yeah.
I think it's with competitors, from my perspective, it teaches you the humanity, even though that you are trying to not hurt, you're trying to win,
Yeah.
but it's not nothing. It's not personal, because when the fight is finished, you respect your opponent.
Yeah. I
So
think
that's
when
yeah.
I
You
was
go ahead.
when I was young, I remember we were always taught, especially Canadians, respect, respect. And then there was this one competitor in judo when I was a young kid. scared the crap out of me. He was like kind of psychotic. And I was like, well, why would I respect this guy? And I remember my teacher saying, respect is your armor. You know, it's
Hmm.
going to protect you. If you know what's right and wrong, you're going to be more, I don't want to say righteous, but more empowered, by that. And that's always stood me in good stead. That's always made me feel more certain because I think
Yeah.
a lot of people try to now they think that competition has to be brutal and some people try to be nasty or sneaky, but there's no longevity in that kind of an approach. I don't know if,
No,
yeah.
no, you always need to respect your opponent. It's like it's morality of it, So because we're sportsmen, and there has to be you need to be a gentleman. I mean, there is a sports aggression, but it's controlled aggression.
Mhm.
You know your boundaries.
Could you give me a specific example of if you were training students to be more competitive, something that you would use to create intensity in them and something you would not be willing to do? Like an example of what you like and what you don't like for creating that kind of intensity.
Yeah, see that with the sparring, because there's always people who want to do a little bit harder. I always said to the guys, it's like, when you spar, if it's for instance like a punching game, so striking, I said that talk to your partner, and punch as hard as you want to get punched back.
Mm. Yeah, that's good
You
advice.
know, but if you want to go harder, make sure that you tell them,
Yeah.
because and then don't get surprised if you punch hard and you get punched back, and then that's when the argument starts.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Now, I think it's safe to say you were doing kettlebells before kettlebells were cool, before we even knew what they were in the West. And then kettlebells in the West became something that, let's be honest, a lot of people teach them after a weekend certification. I know something about kettlebells, and even I can see that there's a lot of errors and a lot of misunderstanding. Is there, and I'm sure there's a few things, but is there something specific, a common misunderstanding about kettlebells that might drive you nuts that you would like to share that you think people get wrong?
I think it's getting better, but yeah, at the start, the techniques were quite wrong, because I mean kettlebells. Some of them are using them like a dumbbells, or barbells. It's like the kettlebell, as well as you could doing that. The kettlebell mostly is the dynamic movement. When you swing, and the snatch. Uh, the it's um, s- strength and endurance exercise mostly.
Yeah.
And it does uses them as opposed to using the kettlebell, for instance, like a curl.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't do that, but you can do that with anything else.
Yeah. You're wasting.
That's missing the point. Because it's not individual muscle recruitment. It has to be um, use the whole body.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of kettlebell, because it teaches you how to use the whole body. It's the functional strength
Yeah.
training, and that's when some of the people earlier, they were missing the point with kettlebell.
Yeah. It's
You
the
know,
elongation of the connective tissue, and there's also
yeah,
a huge element of shock absorption in it. And
yes,
well, yeah,
coordination.
when I first learned it, it was taught to me like a different shape of weight. And my first 2 years of training was entirely without value. And then as I started to understand it, I was like, oh my God, did we get this wrong? So I imagined as somebody who knew it, you must be there must have been a point where you were quietly laughing, just going, ugh. Now, you're currently living in Scotland, in case people didn't, you got the coolest accent on the planet, by the way. It's like such a cool mix. I don't even know how to describe it. It's amazing. Um,
Thanks.
I had never heard of this title. So you are an osteomyologist. Can you tell me what this is all about?
Okay. Uh, the I joined or Association of Osteomyology a while back. The guy who found it, um, Alan Clements, Sir Alan Clements, he sadly passed away. There was a prostate cancer. Yeah, but he was an osteopath, and he decided to build something like this. Who would under one roof you'll have the massage therapists, osteopaths, chiropractors, acupuncturists, all of this under one roof, and we'll kind of share, our personal experiences, and treat human body, musculoskeletal problems and psychological. Uh, Sometimes your healthy mind, healthy body. So that's what osteomyology is. It's like a study of the human body and trying to uh, help to bring it back to the homeostasis, back to normal.
In my experience, anything that you do to help or heal people, whether it's just listening, whether it's massage, anything, I've always found that people that are good at it, it takes a toll on them. It can be physical, it can like be hard on your joints, your fingers, whatever. It can be hugely emotional or psychological. What do you do to maintain, I don't want to say insulation, but how do you protect yourself from that? How do you rehabilitate your own self after a long day?
um, Escapism. I think well, going back home to my family, and that's one of the things. Because when you work, it's your work. When you go back home, trying to separate. It's like your home is a shelter.
Mhm.
So I always enjoy. It's like one of the Russian actors said, when he was asked what's the happiness, he said, I don't know, but so happiness, I think, is when you looking forward, when you enjoy your work and you're looking forward to go back home. So, and I think it's this. Another one is it's my training. So that helps. That keeps me. I think keeps me sane. So I enjoy training, and I've been doing it since I was 10. So I think my sambo, my training, my uh, yoga.
Yeah. Are you doing yoga as well?
I try to. I enjoy that because it does help me to stay flexible.
Are you doing like very pure sort of patterns, or do you kind of deconstruct it and make it your own?
No, I just I've got few DVDs and I just kind of follow them. So and
Yeah.
I've got few patients that that do yoga and then advise me. It's like, nah, you're not doing it right. So they help me.
Now, if someone was living near you or able to come to one of your seminars, how would you kind of summarize what your approach to training is? What's your main focus?
Ooh, main focus for training.
Yeah. Or how would you define yourself? Do you put yourself in are you a custodian of tradition? Are you mostly focused with competition? Are you looking to make
I probably the more kind of competition is essential part, of course, but mostly is the as long as you like to learn, the sambo. But thing is, because my sambo is my sambo, I come from the different backgrounds, as you say, as you know that judo, jiu-jitsu. I've done Wing Chun, I've done some Muay Thai, I've done some boxing, karate. So I mix it up. I enjoy the Filipino martial arts.
amazing?
So and I uh, met Danana Santo, Guru Danana Santo, which was when I was in Los Angeles visiting my friend, the Mark Chang,
Mhm.
so and went to the Judo Academy, and I met up with Danana Santo, and I showed him sambo, which I was like really nervous because I mean this is the Guru
Yeah,
Danana Santo. I mean, come on, he's the
yeah,
the friend of Bruce Lee.
yeah.
I mean, and I showed him, and he was so enjoyed seeing what he's seeing. So it's like, oh, that's excellent because like that's what we do in Filipino martial arts.
Yeah.
So so but that's the thing. It's like keeping open mind, and just enjoying the journey because that's the main thing. It's like with the martial artist, it's not just physical exercise. It's the founding yourself and study yourself. So that's the main thing, is to improve as yourself as a human being through the physical exercise and the martial arts.
Super specific question, but I'm curious if you go, let's say, to Filipino martial arts, do you, when you're learning something new, do you try to just say, forget everything I know and look at this as a separate
Oh
entity,
yeah,
and then you integrate?
absolutely, absolutely. Because it doesn't matter what you know.
Yeah,
If you trying to learn something new, you need to forget about what you know. It's just it's a fresh book. You need to start writing the new page.
yeah. And then after you've digested it, you kind of say, can I mix this with my sambo? Is sambo like your filter? Is that you put everything through, or is
I I think so, because that's how Sambo started. It was taking so many different systems of martial arts and integrating it into that, and they're saying that, well, that works for that, but maybe we could change it,
yeah.
which will work for Sambo. So I think that's what it's keeping open mind, and the fitting yourself, like like with any martial art, everybody, it's human body. It only works certain way, you
Yes.
know, extension, flexion, and but then again, because depending on what sort of a person he is, if he's tall, if he's short, it will change. So as I said earlier before, that when I was competing, I was throwing a lot, and then when I got older, I started to doing more like taking the fight to the ground. I'm not as fast anymore, sadly.
I refer to my approach as sag and drag. That's where I'm at.
Back in track. Exactly.
Oh man. To me, as an outsider, when I listen, I always say consistency. It's not always about doing something every day. It's about always coming back to it. And I don't know if you had periods where we all train more or less, but it seems to me that you've not only did you come back to your training consistently, but you came back to competition later in life. That takes incredible discipline. Do you have any tip, any advice for someone out there who's just they're struggling to get out of a rut. They're struggling to get the momentum to go to their gym, their dojo, their whatever it is they're doing.
I think you need to set yourself a goal, doable goal. So because sometimes, if you think, it's like uh, it's too much,
Yeah.
but if you start small and build it up until you become more confident, sort of in your approach, and they get stronger. I think that's what it is. It's again, doable goals. That's what you need to set yourself up to, you
Yeah.
know.
Earlier
Um,
when you
and
described competition, you were talking about how you win sometimes, you lose sometimes. You said it like it was nothing, but I think a lot of people self-judge themselves and they're afraid to lose. So I think when you're speaking, you embody somebody that just does it. And if you lose, you pick yourself back up and you keep going. And you exude that. You exude that as a presence, like that kind of steady intensity. So whenever I was watching your work, that's I always felt it.
it's always been said, isn't it? In any competition, in anything, you never lose. You either win or you learn. As long as you don't have a big ego,
Mhm.
So because we're all human, so we all make mistakes,
Yes.
so, and as long as you're humble enough to understand, it's like, well, it's what happened there, you know, and, because you can't win all the time.
Now, where specifically is your school right now?
Say again?
Your school is where is it located right now?
It's in Glasgow, in Donnock Street. It's the I'm training with my business partner, George Johnson, that teaches the uh, mm, Filipino martial arts and his own system. So we kind of train together and share, sort of, experiences and knowledge.
And that's rare. There's a lot of instructors that share spaces, but to share knowledge is that's it's commendable. If somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach you? Is there a best website or Instagram handle?
Uh, My website, obviously, it's Vadim Kolganov Sport .co.uk. So you could find me. So and again, Glasgow based.
Yeah.
So.
And I will include it in the description so people can see it easy below in case they didn't get it. Vadim, I want to thank you because honestly, as primarily as a jiu-jitsu guy that then got into Russian martial arts, you were like one of the first people that just were easy to understand. Your work seemed very honest. It was always inspirational. I still look at your clips all the time. I think you just do fantastic work and you deserve a huge audience. So I hope more and more people discover what you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's my honor, and I'm so glad that you approached me and was able to have a chat with you and just
You
tell
were
about myself.
the first person I was nervous to reach out to. I was like, he's gonna say no. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll do my close here just fast. Once again, guys, I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank everyone for the requests. Keep them coming. I will do my best to stay on top of them. Until next week, guys, stay safe and stay strong.
Thanks, guys.
I'm just gonna.